Good morning, it's Teresa from South Dakota Urban Indian Health, and I'm here to share a story with you today, a book reading, and we're going to read Gift Horse, a Lakota story. And here we go. The thing I remember most from my early days is a horse, a gift horse. My father had been away visiting and trading with our friends, the Cheyenne. When he came home, he rode into camp with some new horses trailing behind him, and our whole village turned out to welcome him, singling out a pony. He called to me. There you could see him. There's the camp, and they're riding in, and the people are looking. This, my son, is the horse for a boy who is becoming a man and a Lakota warrior, he said. As the young horse came forward, she nickered and stamped her hooves. She tossed back her head and perked up her ears. She was the blue-gray color of a thunderstorm, and her back was a blur of white spots, like hailstones raining down. Ooh, sounds like a beautiful horse. There she is. I named my horse Storm. Wakantanka, the Great Spirit who is in all things, had already painted her like a summer hailstorm. With mixed paints, I added yellow thunderbolts and placed a red handprint on her hip. I circled her eye with a red band so she would see straight and true. Finally, I tied eagle feathers in her flowing mane. You can see the horse there. We spent all our days together. I was already a good rider, but on Storm I became like the wind. Across the wide open prairie we rode, beneath an endless sky of blue. People said the dust we stirred up looked like a flying cloud on the earth, so they began to call me Flying Cloud. And there you could see him. There were many games we boys played on horseback. We practiced with our bows and arrows. We wrestled. Sometimes we played rough and were knocked from our horses. I always climbed right back on Storm. This was good training for us because when we became Lakota warriors, we would need to defend our people from our enemies. Also, we needed to become successful buffalo hunters. If we failed at hunting the buffalo, our people might starve to death during the bitter cold of winter. And there's the boys playing games. Early one morning, I sneaked out of my family's teepee and rode far away from camp. I knew I was not supposed to go, but I wanted to prove that I could hunt as well as any man. At first, the snow-covered ground made the fresh deer tracks easy to follow, but then north wind began to blow. I dismounted for a closer look. Suddenly, 3 deer appeared. I shot one of my arrows, but my fingers were cold and I missed. Since the gusting wind turned into a raging prairie blizzard, Storm whinnied and nudged me from behind. Her eyes held a look I had never seen before. Fear. And there you could see him in the snow blizzard, and you could see his horse. My fingers were numb from cold, but somehow I managed to mount Storm. The snow was blowing so hard that I could not see my hand in front of my face. "We are lost," I shouted. I wrapped my arms around my horse's neck. She was warm, just like my parents' teepee. "Storm, take us home," I cried. Together we trudged into the darkness of the blizzard. We wandered for a long, long time. I was freezing and ready to give up when I noticed that Storm had stopped. There before us was my family's teepee. Storm had brought us home. She had saved my life. Oh, goodness. The blizzard taught me to think before acting. My mother saw that I had learned an important lesson. She told me that I was becoming a man and that I would soon be ready to wear the shirt of a warrior. She promised to make one decorated with beadwork and porcupine quills, but I would have to collect the quills. After many days of hunting, I finally found a porcupine. He was bristling with sharp spines. I could have killed him with one of my stone-tipped arrows, but I only needed some of his quills. I threw a small blanket across his back. When I pulled it away, the cloth was filled with a forest of quills. And there you could see him doing that. Before my mother could use the quills, she first had to make the shirt. The women and girls of our tribe tanned the animal hides that the hunters brought back to camp. They stitched them together to make many things, including all of our clothing and the lodge skins for our teepees. That spring, when the little green growing things began to show themselves, my mother and sister began sewing a warrior shirt for me. They used a fine antelope hide and decorated it with beads and the porcupine quills. And there you could see his mother and sister making the shirt. Also that spring, to prepare me for becoming a warrior, my father took me into the inipi, the sweat lodge, with him. I sat in a circle with the men of my tribe. Several large stones, which had been heated in a fire, were brought in and placed in a pit in the center of the lodge. The buffalo skin door flat was closed, and darkness surrounded us. Our old yellow bear, the medicine man of our tribe, used a turtle shell to pour water over the glowing stones. They hissed and spat. Steam filled the lodge. In the darkness, the men began to sing ancient songs that I had never heard before. It was so hot that sweat flowed down over my whole body. I felt wonderfully clean. Yellow Bear told me that I was now ready to go on a journey of the spirit. Homlechia, a vision quest. I spent 4 days alone, praying on a distant hillside, without food and water. Sleeping under the stars, I felt the pain of hunger and was very thirsty. I missed Storm. Each day I prayed to Father Sun and Sister Moon and to the Star People. I asked Wakan Tonka to teach me the lessons that would make me a strong and good person. On the third night, a vision came to me. All of the four-legged creatures like deer, coyote, and buffalo are my brothers. I saw that all of the winged creatures like hawk and hummingbird are my sisters. Even the creepy crawlies like lizard and spider are my relatives. I dreamed that, along with all of these creatures, we two-legged beings danced together in the circle of life. It was time to return to my village. My vision quest was over, and I had taken another step toward becoming a man, but I still had not earned the right to wear the shirt of a Lakota warrior. And there you see him on his vision quest. On the prairie there were as many buffalo as there are leaves on a tree. My father told me that there was no greater honor than providing meat and buffalo robes for our people. The time had come for me to join the men of my tribe in the hunt. I remember how the earth shook under the stampeding hooves. My stomach was upside down with fear and excitement. Then Storm drew up alongside a large bull, and for a moment we were galloping together. I shot my arrows and they flew straight and true. And there you could see him in the buffalo hunt. Suddenly before me, a huge buffalo lifted a horse and rider into the air. The bull turned them over onto the earth. The terrified horse bolted away, and I knew the angry buffalo would attack the helpless man. Turning Storm, I galloped to the rescue. We rode up just as the bull charged. With one hand, I grasped Storm's neck, and with the other, I reached out. Using all my strength, I swung the man up behind me, and we rode to safety. And there you could see him saving the man. Later, as I stood over my first buffalo, I was so proud I howled like a wolf. I knelt down by my buffalo brother and thanked him for giving up his life so that my people could eat. I thanked him for his hide and told him it would make a fine robe to keep us warm in the cold of winter. And there you could see him talking to the Tatanka that gave up his life to help the people. We cut up the meat and wrapped it in the buffalo hides. Everyone helped, men, women, and children. We loaded the bundles onto pony drags and hauled them all back to our village. As we traveled, my people made up a song. They sang about how a horse named Storm and a boy called Flying Cloud had rescued a fallen warrior from a charging buffalo. My father told me I had a courageous heart. He said that I was no longer a boy, but that I was not yet a man either. There was one more thing I needed to do. I had to face the enemy with the heart of a warrior. That night we celebrated with a great feast and a buffalo dance. And there you can see the people loading up the meat. And there you can see them with the buffalo dance. Tatanka Wachipi. Many tribes lived on the Great Plains. Some of them, like the Cheyenne, were our friends, but others, like the Crow, were our enemies. Early one morning while we slept, Crow horse thieves attacked. I woke up to shouting and the pounding of hooves. Most of our horses were stolen. That morning, as the sun rose in the east, angry tears filled my eyes. How could those thieves dare to steal my precious Storm? And there you can see the crows taking the horses. We put together our own raiding party. Our men planned to get back all the horses and to punish the thieves by stealing as many crow ponies as possible. We traveled on foot, following the trail left by our stolen horses. I prayed to Wakantanka to return Storm safely to me. Days later, we reached the Crow village. The sky was growing dark and a fierce thunderstorm was coming up. At first, I was afraid that the storm would ruin our rescue effort, but then I thought of my Storm and knew that Wakantanka was answering my prayer. The thunder beings beat their thunder drums overhead and threw spears of lightning to the earth. Rain poured down, soaking us to the bone, but allowing us to sneak up on our enemies. And there you can see them sneaking up. West wind roared in the treetops as we drew near our beloved horses. The men from my tribe dashed into the rescue. Hail pelted my face and shoulders. Lightning flashed as bright as day. In the glare I saw my Storm and the Crow warrior who stood guarding her. Thunder pounded overhead. I prayed for courage and raced to my horse. Lightning flashed again as I knocked over the Crow guard and jumped on Storm. With my fingers clutching her mane, we disappeared into the wild night. I felt a crow arrow whiz past my ear, but I never looked back. Yelping like a coyote, I helped chase the entire horse herd back home. The night was a great victory for our warriors. And there you can see him riding on Storm. Upon our return, I was given the shirt of a Lakota warrior. To my surprise, on the front, my mother and sister had quilled a beautiful image of my best friend. In the years that followed, Storm and I shared many adventures, too many to tell. And so, with my gift horse, I rode from boyhood into manhood. The one thing I will never forget from my early days so long ago is the horse with eagle feathers tied in her mane and the red handprint of a boy. I can still see the two of us riding across the endless prairies of our youth, like a hailstorm and a flying cloud. And there's the picture of him. The end. And this story and the illustrations were by S.D. Nelson. So thank you once again for joining me. I hope that you all have a good day. Stay safe, wear your masks, and take good care of yourself and your family. See you guys next time. Okay, later.